everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on why they like being a part of Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have someone of my guests with Shara with us today. Shara, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
You for having me.
Of course. Well, it's a super funny story on how we got connected, and I think that it'll kind of tie around to what you mentioned. You're going to mention in a little bit, and that's the whole thing about the universe, kind of giving us signs and reminding us of things that we wanted and we say we wanted. Because I remember you telling me that you had been thinking about the podcast for a while, then you saw my mom, and you're like, "I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to call her." And I'm so happy that you were reached out, and then we're able to do this because I know you have some good stories for me, so I'm really excited to learn more about them.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
well, I'll let you kind of kick it off and tell me a little bit about your journey coming here to Flagler, coming here to Palm Coast.
So in 1995, before Palm Coast was even incorporated, before the fires, I was moved from New York to Palm Coast, and it was pretty dramatic. If you can only imagine in 95, I don't know how many residents were here, but it could have been 5,000, and that might even be pushing it. Now we're over 100,000 just in Palm Coast. So it was pretty dramatic coming here at 15 years old and being transferred into a new high school and a whole new environment, and being from New York, and everybody who lived here and went to school here was from here. So I was the outcast. Not that there wasn't new people, but there was still just me who had a very heavy accent. And a lot of the students wanted to hear me say certain words that they were not used to hearing how they were said.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Like,
I've
and coffee. Very.
It's interesting. You still have like I don't you still have like a lot of an accent. And I learned a lot about I mean, for example, like my dad's from India, he has a heavy accent, but I don't hear his accent, so I don't know what it sounds like. But I know a lot of people, like I had a family friend, she moved from London when she was like in her middle school, high school, and by the time she was about maybe 25, she lost all of it.
Mm.
It was completely gone. So I think it's really fun that you still have that, and it's I mean
Well, depending on where they move and what kind of people they're around, but
yeah,
I I actually had a much heavier accent, if you could only imagine, only 30 years ago.
yeah.
The negative attention that I did not want by students coming up to me and saying, "Oh, say dog, say this, say that." So over the years, I actually learned how to speak differently and pronounce some of the letters that New Yorkers don't pronounce, just to try to alleviate some of that attention. But it was almost impossible. And again,
Mm.
taught how to speak, that's just how it is, unless you move around a lot and you learn different languages and you're around certain people. But it's just, I've lived in New York and I lived here, so that's it. I can't learn how to speak Florida.
Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, I mean, I really I learned a lot growing up about different, obviously cultures, given the fact that I have two cultures in my own household. And so I learned about different sides of all of these things. And I learned a lot about accents for whatever reason as a kid. Like, and I think I was the only one out of my friends who understood where accents came from and what they meant and how you get one and how you lose one. And I was maybe like 8 at the time, but I knew all these things. And it's really interesting to me when I meet people and they don't maybe have that understanding of these other ways that the world works. And I think it's something that we should all take on for ourselves is to learn how other cultures and maybe not even like another culture, maybe just a different part of the US and how they operate. Um,
But
it-
Palm Coast also is not very diverse
no.
back then. So people,
Well,
again, they up here, they were they didn't have diversity.
yeah. Well, I think I've talked to a few people actually, believe it or not, who have been here since the 90s, and it's really interesting to hear all your guys' stories of how Palm Coast started out. I know of the one stoplight on Belterre, when it used to be, I think someone said like there used to be a Kmart,
There,
and
where the Staples was,
yep. See, I know things now. I know all about old Palm
and
Coast.
there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like I'm now a Palm Coast veteran. I feel like I've lived all these lives and I know all these stories. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about Smart because you've been working with Smart for a little bit now, and then also the new venture that I'll let you explain as well, and get into that as well.
So I went to high school here, went to college here, and just living my life. A lot of people in Palm Coast have actually moved away, but then they come back.
Mm.
Happens with that, but there's a good percentage of people that do leave and come back. So I've never done that. I have never left Palm Coast in the last 29, 28 and a half years. But I did meet Caroline through our local vet, which is East Coast Animal Hospital, which shout out to them because the Tajmir family is, I mean, when you say amazing people, they are amazing, consistently amazing, kind, loving, caring, genuine. So through them, I met Caroline and we just started to get to know each other. And she is doing everything on her own. She was running the lost pet page of Palm Coast for 10 years. So she started doing that. Clearly, it has grown over the last 10 years with not only residents, but lost pets. So it's a much larger situation than it ever was. And I went to one of her events and I realized again, she is doing, not only is she rescuing the dogs, but she's also doing the entire business part of the nonprofit all by herself. So I just said, I'm joining you. I don't know what you need, but I'll be there. And I haven't stopped since. I'm a huge
Wow.
advocate and I physically or emotionally cannot be around the abused and the dumped dogs because I probably would have a nervous breakdown. So I definitely know how to fundraise. That's one of my specialties. And I thought, you need funds. So that's where I play the part, is where I can help her with the vet care and food and whatever else is needed financially to raise the funds, or at least help to raise the funds while she's physically out there gaining dogs' trust after hours and hours of being in the woods with them.
Wow, that's really lovely. And I know a little bit about what Caroline does because we had Vanessa Cole on a little while ago and she just talked. She's like, "Can I please talk about Smart?" And she's like, "I have like, I don't," she's like, "I personally, it's not my business or anything, but I love Smart. I want to talk about it." I'm like, "Of
Oh,
course, I would love for you to talk about that." And she just talked about like, so all the animals that she's helped with Caroline and the failed ones, like the ones that she just kept because she loved them so much. And then the way that that Caroline lovingly operates, and it's so lovely to hear, both sides of it, of you helping with the fundraising side and obviously Vanessa helps a lot with the dog side. And I mean, I'm the same exact way. I can't be around, something like that because that would, I just in general I just have a lot of feelings for other people and other things and it's hard for me, not to like claim the title as like an empath or something, but it's normal to have empathy, and it's normal to see those things and be like, I don't want you to be in that pain. Um, yeah, so I remember last week we were talking a little bit and you were like, I have the funniest story on how, you fell into now campaigning and running and kind of that talking going back to that whole universe showing us what we need to show. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
well, I went on vacation last August. I went to Greenland, which was probably the most amazing trip I've ever taken in my life. And I realized that there's a whole world out there. Clearly, been here for almost 30 years and feeling trapped because there is no opportunities, I feel like, in Flagler County. And I did take the Citizens Academy course, which I highly, highly recommend. It is a 7-week program that teaches you all about how the city runs, the public works, the council, the sewer department. And during the city council meeting mock that we did, there was about 25 to 30 of us taking the course. And the mock topic of the council was chickens, because that seems to be a hot topic, whether we have the chickens, like the chickens, what goes with the chickens. So she hands out a piece of paper to all of the students, and one gets the mayor, the other one gets Kathy Heitner, another one gets Teresa Pontieri, another one gets Nick Klaufus, and here is my paper. that says Ed Danko seat District 1. And of course, the way that they were handed out were randomly, and people got the public speaking papers and all different positions. And when I opened up the paper, I said, if I was to run, that's the seat I would be sitting in. So that clarified that I need to do something with this.
Mm.
And after that, I went upstairs and filed.
Wow.
And it's been an amazing journey ever since. It's just something brand new. I've been in the retail business for 14 years doing fundraising, and politics are on a whole nother level. And there's a lot to learn about them.
Yeah.
And I think through COVID and through the last two elections has divided not only the world, but the country. And
Yeah.
it's the party affiliation, I believe. And that's why I decided to run independent. Is can we work out the problems together instead of working out what your party does or agrees with, or who you like and who you don't like. So it's been an interesting journey, and I am very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. I can tell you have a lot of passion for, Palm Coast, for making it a better place, to make it the best that we can be. And I think, it's so funny, like we are talking about, the universe gives us signs, but also I think it's really important that we are able to identify the signs. The universe can show us as many signs as they want, but if we do not take it, it does not matter, right? We can see things like, I think this means something, but I'm not going to do anything about it. But you did something right away, which I think is super commendable, especially for something as daunting as running politically for something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had no idea what was involved. I even asked, I forgot her name, and I said, so what does the city council even do? I mean, which is pretty sad that uh, didn't even, politics and following politics was not on my agenda, but it clearly is now my path, and
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
I think something that I hold a lot true to my heart, and especially recently, is there's definitely, like you mentioned, a lot of divide. And I think people think that they can't do anything about it and they just have to sit on the sidelines and watch other people make decisions. But I'm a very big believer. You got to put your voice out there. You have to make it heard. If it's something you believe in, and whether me personally, I agree with it or not, it's our human right. It's in our, constitution. That's why America was kind of made, was to have our voice heard, and that it's meant to make a difference. And especially with so many people making these decisions that maybe you agreed with or didn't, it's important to voice that in any way that you see fit. So I think it's really cool that you saw something, you were like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna learn along the way.
Mhm.
Don't know what's going on, but this is the end goal I want, so we'll do what we have to do. And I think that's hugely commendable for political or any path that anyone sees in their life like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you've been in Flagler Palm Coast for a while. What would you kind of recommend for us newbies? Maybe of places we can go to, events, groups we can join, anywhere we can kind of get more active with our community.
Well, I think definitely the Citizens Academy is one place to learn, but also going from a teenager to an adult, you kind of realize what's important as you start to get older and age. And just jumping into something without doing research is very brave. But when it comes to your livelihood, you need to do research. I know COVID, the pandemic, did a huge number on the entire country and the world, but people were just getting up and moving, selling their houses, not having a clue what they were doing. And again, that could be commendable, but when things go along with that, that you have to learn about a new place, you can't place blame on anyone else but yourself for not doing the research, whether it's schools, whether it's how much your water bill is going to be, if you have state taxes, they just don't do the research. And I think it's really important to not just move somewhere and think because you sold your house for a certain amount of money that you can just live it out without having a plan.
Yeah. I think that's a really important part. I was just telling someone else on the podcast earlier today that I always kind of place my decision making, not always, but a part of that is always, can I factor in the worst possible outcome? Is what do I see as maybe like, you know, like, just what are you having for dinner? I don't know what I want. What's the worst outcome? It's something that I kind of don't like or something like that. Something very small, but even on a ground scale. And if that worst case scenario does happen, how can I either prepare for it? Am I okay for it? Am I okay with it? You know, and I think that's really a big part. If you're thinking of something that different, make sure you factor in those worst possible cases. It's like, okay, if my water bill is going to be that high, can I prepare for that? How can I prepare for that if that happens? God forbid it happens or anything like that. So I
Or
think
not,
that,
if you just move here without a job, it's just, you really have to do a lot of research or just
sure.
rent. Don't make a tremendous purchase on a home and be stuck.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that you want to make sure you look in all the buckets before you pick one up.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, sure. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing a few minutes about your story and the way that Palm Coast has changed. And I think there's also a lot of things that Palm Coast can continue to change and evolve as more people come on and it hopefully gets a little bit more diverse and people can have a growing understanding of other things going on. So I really appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun. You're just a really fun person to talk to. So this has been such a breeze to listen to your story. You have such an amazing way with words. So I appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Of course. And to everyone listening, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Bye.